The Irrational Confidence Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is week number 2. We are finally starting to move into the meat of the college football season. It's finally here. It will probably go way too fast. We're going to be in rivalry week before we know it. I'm joined by my co-host, the man who stopped looking for a perfect match. Why? Because he found a lighter. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Can't believe it's already week 2. We spent the entire summer waiting to get to college football. We go week 0, week 1, and now we're at week 2. Week 1 was a doozy. A lot of statements made, but the season's not made on one game, and that's why we keep playing them. The real question, who's going to turn their season around? Who's going to sort of figure some stuff out after week 1 and shake it up a little bit? We're really intrigued to see. We got 5 great matchups coming in. I can't wait to get after it.
Yeah. Let's go to one of the better games early in the season, one of the best rivalry games out there. It is the Cy-Hawk Trophy. It is the annual matchup between the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Iowa State Cyclones. Fresh, I gotta admit, this is one of my favorite games to talk about. We've talked about this for every season since we've started this podcast. It kicks off at high noon. A trophy made of corn or something that looks like corn or something that revolves around farmers and corn. Right now, at the time of record, is at Iowa State, which will come into a factor here in a little bit. Iowa State's a 3.5-point favorite. Over-under is at 41.5. Last year, Iowa State won this game at Iowa. And it doesn't seem like the home team wins very often here, Fresh.
I can't believe it's the 3rd game for Iowa State. They're a quarter through their season already after Saturday.
I know.
Cyclones historically do have a Hawkeye problem.
Right.
They come in sometimes even better, but somehow Iowa just figures it out. Last year, they kind of just was trudged around the first half and they pulled away in the second half and found a way to figure it out. This year being in Ames, can this team go and try to win 2 in a row? I mean, I'll say right now, they have the better team on paper, but paper doesn't win football games. Has this team gotten themselves sort of squared away after the first 2 weeks? They've already won a tough game beating Kansas State in Ireland. Where's their mindset? Where's their psyche? Are they ready to rock and roll? Looking at Becht and the Cyclones offense, they've looked productive so far. They've been able to move the football a little bit. Bramer, Burkle, Skilson are the top 3 so far, but this offense really is every single player in the roster being involved. Tight ends, receivers, running backs, offensive line, play action, a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, and how do they shake it up and get guys involved through the play action game? That really comes down to, can they run the ball and can the offensive line be able to hold their own against Iowa's defensive line, the front 7? If they can, that sets up a lot of magic for the Cyclone offense. That's what I'm really looking at. And even the first 2 games, we really haven't seen them run consistently. So I'm looking, can we find Hanson, Lee, and Sama the second? Can the 3 of them put together some sort of formidable running game and give some balance? Because at some point, this is going to be a slobber knocker game. You're not going to win this game 37-35. It's always going to be low scoring, a brawl. If you can run the ball, maintain the clock, chew up some yardage, that's where it really comes into play. And Iowa keeps saying they're going to have an offense, but you never know. Usually this game is going to be a brawl, and how can you manage it? Rocco Becht, you're 1-0 in the series as a starter. Can you come in here? How can you maintain as the better quarterback in this matchup, as the better offense, and play with that confidence and play with that discipline to execute? You get this win on your record. You're already 1-0 in the league. You're 2-0 conference. It gives you a lot of momentum moving into the rest of September into October, where you have 2 bye weeks layered up in the rest of the season where you can rest and carry yourself through. On the Iowa side, historically, line of scrimmage, tight ends, defense plays scrappy. They keep everything in front of them. They tackle really well. How can they pull off this upset? It's still, them coming in as an underdog is rare. It's on the road. Where is Kirk Ferentz and this entire staff got this team focused? Are they ready to rock and roll? Is this their one game where they can pull it off and really ruin Iowa State's season? I'll tell you right now, Iowa State goes, 11-1, wins or 12-1, wins the Big 12. It's going to be great. They're going to always have that one black eye of, hey, we lost to Iowa at home. And that's going to hang over them. Kind of like as great as Ohio State's season last year, Michigan's fans still can talk trash. It's that one game where you had the talent, go get it done. Mark Gronikowski, quarterback, came over, transferred from FCS level, did a great job there. If he can keep showing the ability he had at FCS level to really throw the football and manage the offense and use his legs, that gives them something they haven't seen in a long time. Obviously, Demare was never healthy at Iowa. They really haven't had a great quarterback there to really take over a ball game by himself. It's always offensive line, run the football, make a couple throws in the ball game. He wasn't great in the opener, though. 9 for 16 for 48 yards as a team was not very good for Albany. Now, maybe they focused to run the football because they definitely ran the ball 53 times for 310 yards and 3 touchdowns. But we're going to have to see that passing game elevate versus Iowa State. Maybe they didn't throw the ball a lot because they wanted to just run the ball and not give anything away, knowing they'd beat Albany no matter what. But we have to see something for that passing game. We've got to see them get vertical to pass the game, use that in big third downs. Are they really ready to make a play against a good defense here at Iowa State? We know we're going to see a lot of Xavier Washington, Terrell Washington Jr. at the running back position. If Xavier and Terrell can get it done in the backfield, that's going to give Iowa a really good chance. But right now, the receiver game, the tight end, we're still trying to figure out who's going to take that job. And early in the season, I haven't seen much. So this is going to be just an ugly brawl, not very high scoring. I don't expect offense to be heavily involved. Who can sustain drives in the second half, not make mistakes like usual, will win the ball game. I'm actually going to take Iowa State to cover the 3.5. I think their team is just, they've developed the roster a lot better. They have the playmakers on the edge. And I haven't seen with the way the secondary has been depleted in the past years with the draft development from Iowa. I don't really know who's going to actually step up in the secondary or the defensive front seven to make a stop when it's needed. I think Iowa State has the horses to get it done. Cyclones win and go to 3-0 on the season.
Fresh, I don't know if you've heard this, but Kirk Ferentz recently announced that he hasn't updated his playbook since the year of his birth. He inherited as a baby gift to his parents. They gave him a how to play football gift, and he has used that for their offensive thing. Now, please remember that Kirk Ferentz was born prior to the forward pass. So obviously, this is the only logical explanation to understand why they go 15 against Albany, 44 yards. At least Gronkowski or whatever his name is, it's the ski name there. At least he threw a touchdown pass with it. At least he has a touchdown pass thrown there. But again, Kirk Ferentz obviously has outlawed the entire forward pass there. They don't want to throw the ball all over the field. I don't think they trust him. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. And maybe I'm just living in a hyperbole. But you take a look at what they did do, even versus Albany there. Xavier Williams, 122 yards on the ground, 11 yards per carry there as well. That shows that he is making decisions. He's hitting the hole. He's getting fast. Again, I know that Iowa's going to outclass the University of Albany Great Danes talent-wise on the field. But at the end of the day, football is still football. It's still going to be hit someone in the mouth and be able to run the football on this. Again, you ran for 310 yards. There's no reason for you to adopt the forward pass. I don't think Kirk Ferentz is going to live in the present day and age anymore. I think he's just going to be an old, grumpy old man yelling at clouds and telling kids that they can't throw the football anymore. You take a look at the season Matt Campbell's already having. There are huge expectations in Iowa State, and we are always so afraid that when there are expectations in Iowa State players, they just never live up to expectation. And 2 weeks into the season, a big win at against Kansas State over in Dublin, and then the win against a lower-ranked opponent there, South Dakota State. It looks like this Iowa State team might be playing really hungry. And they may have, you talked about how a loss can really hit you. Sometimes a loss can really galvanize you too. Maybe that Big 12 title game loss to Arizona State, being kept out of the playoffs, galvanized the team because they went to the Pop-Tart Bowl. They won the Pop-Tart Bowl. They beat Kansas State. They beat South Dakota State. Rocco Beck has looked like a great player. They got true freshman Dylan Lee, who started to show a little bit. I'd be interested to throw him a few carries. I don't think he's going to take a huge bite out of the Hanson or some workload there. But he could be a kid that you want to see a little bit more of. I would not be shocked to see him get a few more carries there. The receivers for Iowa State, the tight ends, they run 12 personnel. They can run the ball out of that formation. They can pass the ball. This Iowa State team is humming. I'm going to tell you this, folks. Take the under in this game. The reason why I say the under, it's not just because Kirk Ferentz has outlawed the forward pass. It's because these programs are going to have long, sustainable drives. They're going to want to chew up the clock. This is going to be a fast game. I would not be shocked to see this game kicks off at noon. I would not be shocked to see this game over at 3 o'clock. 2:55, 3 o'clock, because of how quickly this game will go due to the fact that the clock will be moving. They'll be chewing up time on the clock there. I really like Iowa State in this game. Cyhawk's a weird one. Usually the home team loses more often than not. And Iowa State in the last 25 years has not been extremely successful at home. Not since the early 2000s. I'm going Iowa State too. I'm scared with the 3.5. I would probably feel better at 2.5 fresh because I do think this is a field goal game. But I'm right there at that line. I'm right there at the 3.5 line.
It's going to be a battle. Last year they pulled away late, but it was turnovers to sort of set the tone late in the ball game. Iowa State got the lead and then forced Iowa to start throwing the football. Going back to your point, why not versus Albany actually try to air the ball out? 18
Right.
passes, that's the one fault your team has. What are you trying to show off that you don't already have? Try to work on the passing. I don't care if someone can see that I can throw the ball. I'd rather work on it, make sure my receivers and tight ends actually had some timing down. This game's going to move fast, time possession, like under 3 hours. This is going to be like the MLB equivalent of, managing the game and getting it over quick. But I think Iowa State just has too much talent right now, and they're too motivated. There's definitely a drive from the Cyclone to win, not to win back to back, but win at home, which happens even less in the rivalry than.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Let's go to our next game. This game is going to take place out there in Eugene, Oregon. Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy are already running their mouth. They're popping off the mouth to Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. Oregon looked all right week one, put up a lot of points again. Lesser opponent, ate the cupcake, chewed it up, digested it, they've passed it, and moved on. Right now, 28.5-point favorite. I'm worried that because Mike Gundy's popped off at the mouth, that number may be a little bit too low. Over-under is set at 58.5 in this game there. Fresh, what do you take of all this with Mike Gundy?
I mean, I think he's trying to fake bravado. It just blows my mind. With all the money, they have oil money there. They have, Pickett's family. How he cannot recruit at all. Oklahoma State hasn't seen a top 25 recruiting class in 20 years? They can't recruit. They bring in they're trying to play in the 1985 version, but it's 2025. They have to get better players in there. They've got to find ways to develop them better and play at a higher level and use NIL to their advantage. And right now they failed at all those. They all usually go out and get an older quarterback, a former baseball player, or some no-name guy. They'll get some talented running backs and receivers, but the overall program is just it's seriously lacking the juice. And this is not helping. You're playing an Oregon team that already has a very, very high caliber of blue chip players. You're going to start chirping, especially when you're coming off a 27-7 win versus UT Martin when it was 17-7 at halftime. Your running game had 42 carries for 127 yards with a long run of 19. You're 18 for 30 for 231 and one touchdown pass as a team. You were 10 for 18 on third down versus UT Martin. And he has 5 penalties, 55 yards. It's just abysmal effort across the board. You play anybody else, just bet you're going to get smoked. Mike Gundy, maybe it's time for you to go. Because right now this program is falling off. A couple of years ago when Jim Knowles was defense coordinator, they were flying high. They were great, getting the Big 12 title game. And it's not like they've hit like a mid-level. They have completely bottomed out the past 2 years. Maybe I was premature on saying that Oklahoma State was done because, 2 out of 3 years in 21 and 23, they were good. But 24, they were terrible. And 25, they're off to, they're 1-0, but they don't look very appealing. And you're going to chirp to Oregon. You're going to get smoked. The other side, Montana State is actually one of the better FCS programs. So 59-13, considering your roster, means you put your foot down, you got after it. You didn't mess around. You didn't play with your food. Dante Moore, 18 for 23, 213, 3 touchdowns. as a team that ran 39 times for 253 and 5. 12 players had a carry. It means that everyone got involved. I really want to see who takes over the number 2 back role because Mekhi Hughes only had 1 carry for 2 yards and 1 catch for 4. Obviously, they didn't need him, but Whittington, De'Aaron Hill Jr., Jordan Davison, who's going to be that number 2 back behind Hughes? Because Hughes did have some injury concerns at Tulane last year and coming into this year. So who's going to be that next guy up in case they ever need him? Then receivers, I think we're still searching for that number 1 because Evan Stewart being out. Is it Malik Benson? Is it Corey Moore? Is it Jeremiah McLennan? Who's going to emerge as that number 1? Or is this going to be 3 1.5s? But get that offense continue to gel. Now you need to take it to that next level. You have 1 more week and then you start conference play and you got to make sure you're fine tuned. So keep working on this, but that added chirp at your team, at your program, Dan Lanning's going to have these guys motivated. I'm going to bring back to when Colorado went out to Oregon a couple of years ago. Everyone was on the Colorado hype train. He said something in the locker room and they went out and put the wood to the Buffs. They took 3-0 it felt like 3-3 after that game. And it was only 3-1. I got a feeling Dan Lanning's looking for a big win, and it's a Big 12 opponent and adds to some resume builders, if you will, from a big Power 4 conference. He's going to put it to him. You don't chirp at the program and say you bought this team, and he has to feel offended by that or ready to make a statement. He's not going to talk back too much with his mouth. He's going to have the players motivated, ready to go. This could get really, really ugly on Saturday afternoon in Eugene. The 28.5, I will say, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be irrational. Oregon wins by 35 plus, 28.5 with ease.
I like it there, Fresh. I really do. So I know you play Montana State, and I had the question going into the season. Dante Moore, is Dante Moore going to be better than the quarterback we saw as a true freshman at UCLA, who's hearing footsteps, who is seeing ghosts and throwing interceptions and not really reading defense? He's been at Oregon for 2 years. He's been under Dan Lanning's tutelage, who has remade quarterbacks. You saw what he did a couple years ago with Bo Nix. You saw what he did with Dylan Gabriel. And now another go around here with Dante Moore. And I think Dante Moore probably is the most talented. I mean, sheer natural talent that he's had out of all of them. This is the first game where I think we're going to get a true read on Dante Moore, whether or not he's really that as impressive as it is. And again, the other one, Corey Moore. Are you really the 5-star elite level prospect, or are you someone really, really good? Are you to the Ryan Williams level? Are you to a Jeremiah Smith level? Are you to, again, his name always escapes me, the kid out at Michigan State who had a decent freshman year, but not like world beater type of freshman year. And I'm sure his name will come to me. But are you able to play to that level of your talent? And again, is this Oregon defense, while again you gave up a few points to Montana State, is this Oregon defense able to completely stifle somebody? Or are they going to be a paper tiger all year long? We saw slowly cracks in the armor as the season went along. The Oregon offense has always been high flying. It's always been, hey, look at us. We're fantastic there. And then all of a sudden the defense starts to falter little by little, cracks upon cracks. And then at the end of the year, the dam breaks for them. Oregon's got to use games like this one to patch up those cracks. As for Oklahoma State, what's your true identity? A couple years ago, you had Ollie Gordon. Are you going to be a pass-happy team? What are you now doing, Mike Gundy? What is your team? What is Oklahoma State? Are you going to now completely drop off into the level of, I don't know, are you going to be the Oregon State of the Big 12? Are you going to be this team that occasionally might pop and have a really good, like, we had a great 8-4 year, everyone, which, small golf clap, wonderful for you. Or are you going to compete for Big 12 titles? What team are you going to be? I think when you start running your mouth, bad things happen. I think Oregon completely eviscerates Oklahoma State. I will say Oregon covers that 28.5 too.
And you kind of look at this. At some point, Mike Gundy's got to go. The program's falling. Oklahoma State, who has the guts to say, you know what, you're a legendary quarterback, you've been here forever, but it's time. The program has fallen off. When Texas and Oklahoma left the Big 12, they were supposed to be one of the programs that elevated. It's not. It's Texas Tech. It's Iowa State. It's Kansas State. Kansas is involved. Colorado's playing, is getting better. Utah's still there. BYU, UCF, West, all these other programs have juice. Even, Houston has resources. BYU has resources. TCU has resources. What are you doing? It's an embarrassment for a team that actually had talent when Texas and Oklahoma were there. When them leaving the league, this should have been your chance to take that next step and take advantage of it, not cry and woe because you don't get, the Bedlam game. Go beat teams in your own conference and show them that you're actually better off without them. Because right now you're embarrassing yourself.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Let's go to our game that will be in the middle of the afternoon, 3:30 kickoff. I'm excited for this one. So I dove into this football game, Fresh. You know how much and the level of affinity we have for the Sunflower State and the support they have done for this podcast. We're talking about the Kansas Jayhawks facing the old Big 12 rival, the Missouri Tigers. Missouri is a 6.5-point favorite. This game is at Missouri. Over-under is set at 51.5. Fresh, I don't think we can talk about Kansas without talking about Jalen Daniels here to start the season. 2 games in, the kid has 9 incompletions, one of them being an interception, 7 touchdowns. He's also run for 65 yards already. I mean, Lance Leipold could have brought that secret sauce back to Kansas.
The first, coming into this game, there's no reason that Missouri shouldn't be playing Illinois and Kansas alternating years. Those two are great rivalries, both borders. I mean, even if the SEC goes to a 9-game schedule, as they are, you have to have a minimum 10 Power 4. Just go Missouri, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, back-to-back, alternate years. It gets everybody their game, and everybody's happy. Because those are great rivalries between Missouri and those two schools. Coming into this football game, though, we're going to find out, is Missouri truly good? And is Kansas back to 2023? Jalen Daniels had some injuries. They kind of had some falling off. Last year they had a slow start. Is this the year when they finally put together, even though they had some significant losses with Devin Neal at running back, losing some receivers, and obviously losing some players in the secondary and defensive side? Maybe they have a better team. But we're going to find out. Playing in Fresno State and playing Wagner, and then Missouri playing Central Arkansas, we really don't know what these two teams really are. The Fresno State team, they were a mess. And then 2 FCS programs. We're going to find out what these 2 schools are all about on Saturday afternoon in Columbia. Bo Pribla, quarterback now, he looked good, and he was supposed to be splitting duty. Didn't actually outright win the job technically, but the backup kind of got hurt. Now it's his show. He used his legs, used his arm, looked pretty well. But how's he going to actually react? Is he the quarterback that was recruited to Penn State to be the number 2 and just couldn't be at Drew L.R., knew he couldn't get the job, so he transferred? Or is he just a guy? We're going to find out how Drink and that offense use his skill set. He needs to lean on running back Ahmad Hardy. He had 10 carries for 100 yards for Central Arkansas last week, and he had coming off a great run at UL Monroe. It's the reason why he was a big get out of the portal. Let him loose versus Kansas defense. Run the football. Don't have to throw it every single time. You can use your receiver depth, but they're going to have to step up. And I want to see, is it Marcus Johnson? Is it Joshua Manning, Kevin Coleman Jr., Donovan Oglebod? Is it one of those 4 guys, or even all of them, that really steps up in big situations against a better opponent to set the tone and move this offense? Because as the season goes on for Missouri, they're going to have tougher games down the road. You're going to have to show up and show me something versus Kansas on Saturday afternoon. Looking at the Jayhawks, you mentioned Jalen Daniels and his great start so far. They still need him to be Superman. He is the straw that stirs the drink. The running game, the pass game, his athletic ability, put him on the edge, let the linebackers and safeties come up, make things happen. If he's in his groove, they're going to be okay. If you can keep him bottled up and force him to throw and take away his mobility, they're going to be in trouble. Can his supporting cast show up when it matters? Can they make big catches on 3rd down? A lot of those guys that were on the roster last year on the offensive side are gone. So how do all these new replacements truly gel? Yes, they've had 2 games, but not in this kind of environment versus a better team on the road as well. Daniel Hishaw Jr., LaShawn Williams in the backfield. They're both going to have to be very productive, hold the football, sustain drives, run tough. You can't let all the hits come on Daniels. The two of you have to be productive in the run game, and that also ties back to the offensive line. Emmanuel Henderson Jr., Cam Pickett, Levi Wentz, Bryson Canty, you're the four new receivers. You want the guys that have been in the past couple of years. Who's going to step up and make a big play? If that offense could go, I don't truly trust the Missouri defense. This is going to be a shootout, more offense than defense, obviously. I don't know who's on that either side of the ball is going to be able to step up and make something happen. So offense is going to be primary. No turn the ball over, sustain drives, touchdowns over field goals, find ways to be productive. If you're dropping balls on third down and killing drives, having 3 and outs, you're going to lose and make it too easy for the defense. Which offense can truly be sustainable against a more higher opponent than what we've seen so far in the season? Missouri being favored by a touchdown, basically minus 6.5 at home, kind of makes sense. I think they have a little more depth. There's a lot of more unknowns from Kansas, even though they played 2 games. The over-under is 51.5. Take the over. I'm going to say Missouri covers the 6.5. I just think I don't trust the supporting cast for what Jalen Daniels has. And that worries me. I want to see those guys step up. We don't know what we're going to get. They might surprise me, but Fribla and Hardy in the backfield for Missouri, plus the thing of defense that has brought in some guys from the transfer portal at more of a higher level. I think that is the difference. Damian Wilson, former Georgia player off the edge, is going to make a big play or two in this ball game and kind of maybe seal it late. Missouri holds on. This is going to be a high scoring shootout all Saturday afternoon.
Okay, Fresh, the matchup in this game is going to come down to Jalen Daniels versus the trio of sophomores that Missouri kind of has playing linebacker. I know that sometimes they got fourth linebacker out there, but I'm really looking at Trotter, Beasley, and Rodriguez. And you take a look at, I know McKellen got some run there, but he's a true freshman over there. And then they also got the Newsom kid who is a senior. But again, I'm looking at those 3 freshmen that played linebacker for Missouri this past week. Can they do, when the pocket breaks down and Jalen Daniels decides to go into, as you referred to him, as Superman mode, was one of those guys going to be a spy? Is one of those guys being able to take a 4-yard gain and not let it become an 8-yard gain? Are they going to be able to do what Alabama couldn't do at all against Florida State? Is that when you think you have the quarterback bottled up, especially a guy who is as dangerous with his legs as Daniels is, are they able to do it? I learned a long time ago, I learned the lesson a lot last year, that Lance Leopold needs so many things to go right for him to win at Kansas. And one of the things Leopold has done really well at Kansas is coached up their offensive line. I take a look, there's a couple of stats in there. Daniels has got 1 sack on the year. Again, I know Fresno State, 2 lesser opponents so far. But you take a look, their running game is averaging 6 yards a carry. They're almost have 500 yards rushing. I get it, lesser opponents. But then Daniels is almost thrown for 500 yards too, 456 right now. And they have over 500 yards passing if you count the backups. That tells me that offensive line is doing a couple of things. They're opening up holes and they're protecting Superman. And the more I was thinking about this, the more I thought back to last season and Drinkwitz and Missouri being straight frauds. And Missouri has to prove me wrong that they're not a bunch of frauds. And the minute you called Jalen Daniels Superman, I went back in time to the early 2000s. I was in high school, 3 doors down in Kryptonite, baby. I might go a little bit crazy, Fresh, but I'll still call Jalen Daniels Superman. I am calling for Kansas to go into Columbia, Missouri, and smack around the fraud-villian Missouri Tigers and show them what true sunflower football is all about.
Wow. That's a very bold statement. It's irrational. I see where you're coming from.
Highly
Some,
irrational.
somebody's still a little
I
bitter.
love
Somebody's
Kansas.
somebody's still bitter about a Cotton Bowl loss a couple of years back.
Crossed
But
my
yeah,
mind until you brought it up.
this will be a test for Missouri to really prove themselves. I think if they lose this game, they are in that fraudville category. Because last year the schedule was soft as Charmin, and when the tough games actually mattered, they got smoked versus Alabama and A&M. It's Drinkowitz. You also were chirping about we should expand the playoff to 64 teams. Everybody gets in. Dude, you had your run with some talented teams and you couldn't get it done. You need to focus on getting your boys ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
And at home, this is game 9 in Lawrence. You have it all in front of you. If you can get it done, congratulations. It keeps you moving forward. But you have to set the tone. If you lose to Kansas, no one's going to take you seriously going forward.
Yeah. And as people who have listened to this podcast have known, there's few schools that we just kind of randomly root for. Again, West Virginia, Virginia Tech. We'll get to them here in a second. And Kansas has been another one. Again, I don't ever think Kansas is going to the playoff. But maybe I'm wrong on that one. But I do really love the fact that this basketball school, who everyone thinks is really bad, I love it when they win in football. So I'm rocking with the Jayhawks. Listen, I was kind of wrong about Auburn, but then I also looked at the stat sheet and saw Baylor just completely dumped all over the Auburn defense. So I didn't feel that bad about it, but I was kind of wrong about that game. All right, friends, so let's go to one of the 2 night games this weekend. It is the Vanderbilt Commodores versus the Virginia Tech Hokies. The Virginia Tech Hokies are a 1.5 point favorite in this game. Over-under is set at 47.5. We'll be hearing Enter Sandman at night. It'll be wonderful. Vanderbilt is building off of last season and bringing back quite a bit of some players there. Virginia, I went back and I watched part of the abbreviated game with Virginia Tech, South Carolina. The first half is drastically different than the second half in that football game. If Virginia Tech can harness first half and play like that for 4 quarters, this Virginia Tech could be very difficult to beat. I just don't know if Brett Pry is able to get them to do that. What do you got for Virginia Tech Vanderbilt?
That first half for South Carolina was the first thing I went to. That front 7 played outstanding. They were flying football. They actually really contained that ground game. They kept Sellers in the pocket. They allowed quicker throws, and they didn't allow the big pass play. The receivers were making plays left and right for drones. But at halftime, something kind of changed. And then Beamer ball with the punt return and then 80-yard touchdown to Nick Harbor. It just pulled away. And those 2 plays really were the difference in the whole football game. That defense for Virginia Tech played at a high level. They just couldn't sustain the full 60 minutes. Maybe they got worn out. Who knows? If they can put forward a full 60-minute effort, they can beat Vanderbilt. But if they don't, they're 0-2. Yeah, they haven't played ACC play yet. They're 0-2 versus 2 SEC opponents with a very, very difficult schedule still ahead with NC State, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Florida State, Miami. You're 0-2. That puts bowl eligibility in a tight spot. That means you really can't slip up the rest of the way. You've got to find a way to figure it out. Use the 7:30 kickoff in Blacksburg. Use the home field environment. Use entertainment to get the whole place jacked up. But then keep that momentum building, not just during the introduction, not just during the running on the field, but for the full football game. Play with the intensity and use the crowd. Diego Pavia has a swagger about him. Vanderbilt football team has a vibe about them that they can take on all comers. When they beat Alabama, they played Tennessee hard. They played Texas real hard last year. They're not scared of anybody. They're going to come in there and be like, all right, here we go. Now, granted, all those games were in Nashville last year and not on the road, but this team has played tough opponents. They're ready for the opportunity. Vodtech has got to be ready to rock and roll. The Hokies have got to be ready to fire and get after it. If they aren't, they are going to get themselves in a world of hurt, and Brent Pry might have some serious heat on the resume in that job security. The Pavia party really did start last year when Vandy in week 1 in Nashville, the stadium still being built, upset Virginia Tech. I think we all kind of looked at the schedules like, all right, Jacob Pavia at New Mexico State University had a great year the year before, but this is Virginia Tech. They're finally up and coming. They got a quarterback. It's still Vanderbilt. They came out and played and they beat them. And then they kind of used that momentum the rest of the season. Does Virginia Tech, have they been thinking about that game for the entire year? It's like that game, it took what could have been a fun season and put them at a bad spot. Then obviously they had the game robbed from them by the Hurricanes and the referees. These are two games that are right outside of their grasp. They couldn't finish. Can they find a way? Just like the South Carolina game is a similar one. They had a chance to win it and they couldn't finish the ball game. Can they find a way to play and finish a game? It's just, there's something lacking that they have talent. There's a vibe there in the stadium always. But when are they going to put it together and get back to being a consistent winning football program? Tradition of being a team can only carry so long. Look at Nebraska. There's about a 20-year gap of them. I mean, yeah, they went a couple Big Ten title games when it was East-West or whatever. They weren't a legit national championship contenders or elite national contenders at all. The programs took a hit. You can't live on the history and the name for only so long. Notre Dame can because they have tons of money, but you're not in that situation. You've got to find a way to win games on the field and do it yourself. Is Saturday night the game they actually can get through, get 1-1, beat an SEC opponent, put that on your resume, ACC over SEC, chant, do whatever you got to do, and then carry that momentum into conference play. Because if you're 0-2, that momentum is going to go the opposite direction, and people are going to start doubting each other and looking at each other in the locker room, and things will start unwinding. You have to find a way to pause the pain from last week in Atlanta and get after it this Saturday. If Pavia gets going with the heavy dose of Cedric Alexander, Eli Stowers, Trey Richardson, and Junior Sherrill, you're in some serious trouble. Drones, use your receivers who stepped up last week, get better on the same page, make things happen, push the ball downfield on that defense for Clark Lee, attack Vanderbilt, and do not play scared. If you do, Pavia will pull it away in the second half. In the end, it's basically a push pick 'em game. I mean, a -1.5 at home, 3 points for home sport. It's winner take all in this case. I am actually going to take Virginia Tech. I think they're a desperate football team. Vanderbilt has tons of talent, and everyone knows I'm SEC homer, but I think Virginia Tech is the desperate football team. And I'm going to say they put all their cards on the middle of the table on Saturday night in Lane Stadium and pull it out. It doesn't have to be pretty. They might not even cover. They might just win by a point. But they are going to win this football game and going to get themselves reset going into ACC play.
All right, Trish. If I'm Brett Pry, I am pulling out all the stops for this game because I think you said something right about the momentum of the season. This game could be completely out of control if there's a Pavia party in Blacksburg, especially if this game is, you can flip it off in the third quarter because it's out of control. Then I would almost say, let's start the eulogy for Vitek football and what the days of yesterday and yore. Like, this has been a very dramatic fall from grace for Virginia Tech. I'm sorry to hear this because I love Virginia Tech. I really do. I've really enjoyed always what they've done and how they've played. I loved Frank Beamer back in the day. I always thought, enjoying watching play Michael Vick playing like they're not Marcus Vick, but Michael Vick. I always enjoyed Virginia Tech. Dogfighting, all that stuff on the side. But Vandy just had like that special magic about them last year. And I kept thinking to myself when I was looking into this game, I was thinking about, Eli, Trey, and all of those receiving options that they have. But I really could not get the first half out of my mind against South Carolina. Maybe that was a one-off. Maybe Virginia Tech was jacked up for the season. But I'm going to guess that Virginia Tech is going to continue that energy and stop this Vanderbilt party here that they're going to try to have in Blacksburg. I'm with you. Give me Virginia Tech in this game, mainly because of the defense, and I liked how Virginia Tech's offensive line handled South Carolina's pass rush as well last week. So I'm going to go with Virginia Tech in this game. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be an entertaining football game. But Virginia Tech by a touchdown in this game.
All right.
Maybe 6. 5 or
ACC
6.
Network, by the way, everybody. ACC Network. So call your cable providers or streaming services.
All right. Let's go, Fresh, to the last game for the weekend. Norman, Oklahoma. The Wolverines are traveling down to the great state of Oklahoma, where the wind goes sweeping down the plains. The Sooners and Wolverines face off. Oklahoma is a 5.5-point favorite. Over under in this game is set at 46.5. Both these teams looked respectable last week. Very respectable. Fresh, I'll let you go first. What do you got for Oklahoma and the Wolverines?
Oh, Bryce Underwood, second career start. You only beat New Mexico 34-17. Big road test, hostile environment. Can't let the moment get too big. Play within the system. If you're on schedule, you're gonna be just fine. Run the football, use your checkdowns, but I think they're gonna have to really rely on Justice Haynes, who had a huge game versus New Mexico, 16 carries, 159, 3 touchdowns. He's got to be the bell cow. The entire Michigan running game's got to be a bell cow. Let Bryce Underwood get in the flow. Because if you start getting in a duel versus John Mateer, it's not going to end well. Because I tell you right now, I couldn't tell you who plays receiver for Michigan, and I'm not sure they even know who the number one guy really is. So you need to run the football, use your offensive line, maintain manageable passing situations in a road game. You're going to go in here, you're going to try to spread them out and do something unorthodox. You're going to be in trouble. You cannot get in a shootout with Oklahoma. You've got to be who you are, Michigan. Look what you did when you went to the shoe last year. Look what you do when you go in big games. You run the ball, you play defense. You don't have to win by 30. You just need to win the ball game. Don't put too much on Bryce Underwood. If you do, maybe he starts collapsing, because college football at a high level is a lot different from high school football. You're going to see different, unique blitz packages and formations from Brett Venables' defense that he's never seen. You're going to have to be prepared and dictate the offense and not become a victim or not become reliant on what that defense is going to show you, because you're going to get confused in a dire situation. The one positive, though, is that Michigan's defense is run by Wink Martindale. Wink Martindale, NFL defense coordinator for many, many years. What he did last year, he can scheme it up. And he's going to scheme it up against this high-flying passing offense from John Mateer. They're going to be very physical at the line of scrimmage, but have that secondary ready to play. They had some losses in the secondary the past couple of years. They have those guys replaced and ready to be able to spread out more of a dime or nickel package, because they're going to see a lot of receivers on the field from Oklahoma. John Mateer, he has a lot of great stats when he was at Washington State. His offensive coordinator is now offensive coordinator here at Oklahoma. This is going to be the best defense he's ever faced. Period. Wink Martindale is, putting any 11 guys on the field, is going to scheme up better than anyone he saw last year or the year before as a quarterback. What unique packages, blitz packages, formations, alignments, schemes, coverages are they going to cook up that's going to have him confused? It is a very, very fast offense that has a lot of bubble screens, a lot of short passes, high percentage throws, but in complete pace. How does Michigan stall that out? What kind of curveballs are both these defensive coordinators going to throw at these quarterbacks? That is the best part of this game. It's not going to be the players on the field. It's going to be these two Venables on one side, defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale on the other, and what defensive schemes are they concocting to go after these, I'm going to say, elite, inexperienced quarterbacks. Mateer did great at Washington State versus against average defenses. He's now playing a much better defensive scheme. How is Bryce Underwood in his second career start going to be able to explore and get confused or dictate in this ballgame? There'll be a lot of interesting from that schematic element coming into this game. The ground game for Oklahoma is going to help out Mateer, just like the ground game for Michigan. Blaylock, Robinson, Jaden Alton had one carry for -3 yards. I know he's been coming off some injuries at Cal coming into this year. Is he fully healthy? Were they being very precautious with him? But they're going to have to get the ground game going to help Mateer, because there's going to be a time that the passing game is not going to be there. You're going to have to run the football and sustain a drive. Use your running backs. You don't have to win by 30. You just need to win the football game. 9 seniors caught a pass in week 1. Lewis, Kanik, Burks leading the way. They've got to show up on Saturday night. And combined between both teams, we're going to get 2 very talented tight ends on display. Marlon Klein for Michigan, Jaron Kanik for Oklahoma. Both had 90 or more receiving yards in week 1. That means they're going to be against safeties and linebackers. A lot of third down, high percentage throws to 2 big players. A lot of receivers are going to clear out and let the underneath being taken on the drag route for these tight ends. So keep an eye on that, especially in the red zone. A lot of play action off the running game. Very schematic in this game. I think the players are very similar on both sides of the ball. Defensively, which coordinator has those guys ready to play? What curveballs they throw at the opposing quarterback? And who can manage the best against the defense and not make as many mistakes? There's going to be a high octane. Obviously, we have another SEC Big Ten high showcase element here. A lot of bragging rights on the line for conferences. And Oklahoma looking to bounce back. A lot of the schedule's still a pain, but you're 2-0. And it allows you to sort of think, all right, bowl game, what can we go from there? We have momentum. We're looking good. Michigan, you're 1-0. This could be you 2-0. I've had both these teams going into the playoff, in my opinion. So this is a game just going through, settling out who wants to keep momentum in this early season and get a big key win to add to their resume that they might need later to convince the committee down the road. Sooners at -5.5. I'm taking Oklahoma to win by a touchdown. I just think they have a little more experience on offense over what Michigan has, but this game is going to be low scoring. I'm taking like a 20-13 kind of game, very defensive heavy, a late touchdown by Oklahoma to win the ball game.
3 components for me, Fresh. If you can tell me who wins 2 out of 3, because Meatloaf said 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Who wins 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3 of this, I'll tell you who's going to win the football game. Who is going to average more yards a carry on the ground? If it's the Wolverines or it's the Sooners. If Justice Haynes gets really rolling, he averaged 9.9 yards a carry against New Mexico State. That's a first down every single time he ran the ball. I know those stats are padded a little bit with a 59-yard run, but still take that. Even if you take that out, the kid's running for over 6 yards a carry. All right. If you're able to the Wolverines are able to do that, that's the first check mark. Now, Oklahoma is going to be a little more unconventional. Is Ott back? Is he going to get another carry there? Or are you going to lean on Barnes a little bit more, the guy who's been the old hat in the room, who's been around? Are you going to lean on some of the young guys? Or is it Mateer who's going to use his legs to scramble around there as well? Who wins the average yard per carry? Because which program is able to stop the run? Which program is going to be able to win at the point of attack? Who makes a turnover? Again, Mateer, little more experience. Bryce Underwood, first game, looked nice. Had a very good game. 67% completion on there. Threw a touchdown. Didn't really have to use his legs there. I'm telling you, if Oklahoma is able to force a turnover from him, that could be a big thing. Who's going to win the turnover battle? Who's going to win the rushing battle there as well? And then at the end of the day with this one here, Fresh, which team is able to protect their quarterback? Which offensive line? Because both Venables and the Wolverine defensive staff, Wink Martindale, they're able to dial up some pressure. They're able to get after the quarterback. So those 3 factors, if you're going to be able to tell me, the Wolverines are going to win the rushing attack and they're going to be able to sack Mateer 3 times, I'd probably say the Wolverines are going to pull this off. If you're going to tell me Oklahoma is going to get 3 Bryce Underwood turnovers and they're able to get after him and put some pressure on him, they may not win the rushing attack. You are able to lose one of these. You don't have to win all 3. Just 2 out of 3. It ain't bad. Meatloaf. Listen to it. This game could go a very long way to telling us which of these programs is going to be a force within their respective conference. Now, here's the other thing too. A little bit ago, you said you were an SEC homer. There's one major difference that we say between the Big Ten and the SEC. And there's one thing that I don't do. I don't root for my rivals. I'll give them their flowers. I'll put some respect on their name. I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't root for the Wolverines. And after their shenanigans, I don't know if I'm going to ever pick them to win again. So I don't care if I'm wrong on this one at all. I'm doing this on principle alone. Oklahoma wins this game with some fringe on top.
So I have a question for you, Sam.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Brent Venables. Last year, they had a lot of premier home games. They played Alabama. They played well. They played South Carolina. They got beat like a drum. They played Tennessee.
Tennessee.
They played like Tennessee, looked lethargic. And they played early. They had some energy versus Texas, and they got blown out late.
That's a neutral site game.
But it's neutral, but still, the big games that were on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
1-3 in those games.
Yep.
If Venables can't come in here and get this, at some point, I already know he's on the hot seat. You go out and they went heavy in the portal. When's the Heat? Even though it's not an SEC loss, there's still conference and whatever. And like, if you don't show up and get your team ready to play in this game, and even compete at a high level, I'm not saying you lose. If you lose, it's over. But if you look formidable, that's one thing. If you come out disorganized and completely just lethargic, no juice, at what point does people start looking in the face like, maybe he isn't the guy. Maybe it's time to actually take that next step.
I think student fans are doing that already.
I mean, this is a big game for him because you're going to have to go to Tuscaloosa. Now, that's a whole different story, and that team is in their own turmoil. You're going to have to play Texas, which who knows what Texas team we'll see and what kind of Arch Manning-esque ability we'll see. You still have opportunities to win, but you need this game to build up momentum. You get this loss, you're one, it's like, oh, yeah, but. So it's a big game for Brent Venables in his Oklahoma tenure, not just for the Sooners and getting a W, but his standing with the program, anything going forward.
I agree with you, Fresh. I think this is a huge game for Brent Venables. Are you just a great coordinator who got a head coaching job and this is not for you? Or are you a guy who just maybe needed some time? You needed time. You were not Brent Venables was not placed in a great situation. You know, he's placed 1 year in the Big 12. Then they're moving to the SEC. Lincoln Riley basically gutted it. He basically foreclosed on the house that is Oklahoma. He took the bathroom, he took the bidet, he took the sink, he took everything.
Nobody wants to take the bidet. Let's put it that way.
Well, I don't think many people in Oklahoma use a bidet, but that's beyond the point. Again, I think Oklahoma seems like a lot of very blue-collar people. I don't think they're bougie enough to be using a bidet.
But you never know.
But you never know. To each their own. I would imagine some Wolverine fans can't
right.
do anything and gotta do what they gotta do to do whatever to keep levels of hygiene. All right? I think Oklahoma wins this game, but I do think you're right on the fact of Oklahoma is on track to maybe fire Brent Venables. Maybe not for this game because I take a look. You got Temple next week. You start 3-0, but then you start going Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, LSU. All those games are coin flip games, or you're going to be an underdog in them. Yeah, you can't waste the loss here on the Wolverines here. So Brent Venables needs this game. All right, Fresh, let's go. We have our weekly tradition here. Our fresh pick of the week here. Fresh, so far you have chose Hawaii, Georgia Southern, and the Utes. So all three of those programs are completely off the table to you. You cannot pick them again. What do you got for a fresh pick this week? What team are you looking at?
Well, 2-1 on the year so far. Pretty solid start. But my fresh pick for week 2, Illinois -2.5 at Duke. I am so confident. I'm putting Brett Bielema's weight in U.S. dollars on Illini to cover 2.5. That's a lot of weight. It's a lot of U.S. dollars. And that's how much faith I have in the Illini to go in and get the big dub.
Yeah. Fresh, I'm 100% behind you on this one. Still, Vegas always knows more than we do. I'm sure there's a reason Illinois is only a 2.5-point favorite, but I sit there and I go, if home field is worth 3 points, that's telling me that Illinois is a 5.5-point favorite on a neutral site. That tells me they're almost a touchdown favorite. I hope this is a slam dunk because I'm following with you on this one.
Well, and it's more importantly for Illinois, it is a playoff. It might be a deciding factor in that large bid in the playoff. Duke is actually Manny Diaz did a great job. They've done a good job there at Duke playing, considering all the academic standards of their football program. You go in there, get ACC win on the road. People will remember that as like, all right, that is a Power Four win on the road against a respectable opponent. And that will add to a resume that puts you potentially over the edge of somebody else. So if you have a chance to not just win, but tack on a few extra points, you do it. This is going to be a big test for Brett Bielema and that team to go out there and get it done.
Absolutely. All right, folks, you've been listening to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're part of Spinnable Sports, so make sure you check out spinnablesports.com. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Get notified every single time we drop a new episode. Leave us a comment whether or not you think our picks are spot on or whether you think we have no earthly idea what we're talking about. We love reading those comments there, guys, when we try to engage and read with you for each and every one. Interact with us on social media. We got the X, we got the Twitter stuff. We engage with you guys. With that, Fresh, it is week number 2. Let's rock and roll here. Let's get going on these ones.
Enjoy another college football weekend, everybody. Remember, spinnablesports.com, Spinnable Sports YouTube channel. We're available on all podcast platforms. Spread the word, engage. We have tons of great articles and content everywhere. And we'll catch you again for our week 2 recap. And with that, bye, y'all.